Good morning, students. I am P. Saravanan, PGT Physics, Atomic Energy Higher Secondary School, Kalpakkam. I am proudly presenting the first PowerPoint 1 in Chapter 2, Current Electricity. Now, let us define electric current. The electric current in a conductor is defined as the rate of flow of charges through a given cross-sectional area A. Now you look at the diagram on the left. XY is a conductor. The end X is connected to the positive terminal of the battery and the end Y of the conductor is connected to the negative terminal of a battery. So the end X is at a positive potential and the end Y is at a negative potential. Hence, a potential difference is maintained between the two ends of the conductor. Now, you can see the free electrons are moving towards the positive potential. That is, they are traveling from the right end Y to the left end X of the conductor. So, the free electrons are moving from the lower potential to the higher potential. And in the external circuit, there is an electron current due to the flow of the free electrons. But the situation is equivalent to the flow of positive charges from the positive potential X to the negative potential Y of the conductor. This flow of positive charges from the higher potential to the lower potential is called as conventional current. Now you come to the right side picture. We have shown that positive charges are flowing perpendicular to the cross-sectional area A in a time t. This constitutes a conventional current capital I from the left end of the conductor to the right end. But actually the current flow is due to the free electrons which are flowing from the lower potential to the higher potential. Now below the diagram. If q coulomb of charge flows through the conductor for a time t, then the current through the conductor is given by I equal to q by t. SI unit of electric current is coulomb per second or ampere. Let us now define 1 ampere. If 1 coulomb of charge is flowing through the cross section of the conductor for 1 second, then the current is said to be 1 ampere. So 1 ampere of current is equivalent to 1 coulomb of charge passing through a perpendicular cross section in 1 second. So 1 ampere is also equal to 1 coulomb divided by 1 second. The electric current is a scalar quantity. Now we define average current. This average current is calculated when unequal quantities of charges flow through the conductor per unit time. So, the average current is denoted by delta Q by delta T. Steady current. When equal quantities of charges flow through the cross section for equal intervals of time, then the current is said to be steady current. Unsteady current. When unequal quantities of charges flow through the cross section for equal intervals of time, then the current is said to be unsteady current. It is given by I equal to limit delta t tending to 0 delta q by delta t, that is also equal to dq by dt. Drift velocity Vd. It is defined as the average velocity with which the free electrons move inside a metallic conductor, even though they are accelerated by an electric field. Derivation. In a conductor, the charge carriers are free electrons. These electrons move freely through the conductor and collide repeatedly with the positive ions. If there is no electric field, that is, if the conductor is not connected to a battery, the electrons move in random directions. So their velocities are also in random directions. On an average, the number of electrons traveling in any direction will be equal to the number of electrons traveling in the opposite direction. As a result, there is no net flow of electrons in any direction, and hence there will not be any current. You can look at the diagram. At the bottom of the diagram, capital E represents the electric field. The direction of the electric field is from the positive to the negative. And on the top you can see the velocity vector of the free electron, namely drift velocity Vd vector. It is the velocity with which the negatively charged electron which is moving towards the positive end of the electric field. So the direction of the drift velocity is opposite to the direction of the electric field. Under the effect of an electric field E, the free electrons experience an electrical force capital F equal to E into capital E. Negative sign is because the electrons have a negative charge. So F equal to minus E into E, and accelerated in a direction opposite to the electric field. If m is the mass of the electron, then the acceleration of the electron is given by acceleration is equal to force by mass. So A vector is equal to F vector by m, which is again equal to minus E into E vector divided by m. This is equation 1. Now the drift velocity V drift is given by V drift is equal to acceleration into time tau, equation 2, where tau represents the average time between two successive collisions and is called the mean free time. Already we have explained in the class that whenever an electron tries to go in the forward direction, it undergoes a collision with a positive ion and changes its path. While changing its path, it may collide with another ion. So these two collisions are called as successive collisions, and the time taken between these two successive collisions is not the same for all the electrons. This time of collision between two successive collisions will be different for different electrons, and we get an average value that is called as mean free time tau. Okay, now after the second equation, therefore V drift is equal to minus EE by m into tau. This is equation 3. So once again I am grouping the terms by taking a electric field vector separately. So V drift is now equal to minus E tau by m into electric field vector E, or this bracketed quantity minus E tau by m can be replaced by another term, namely mu. Therefore V drift is equal to minus of mu times E. Here mu is called the mobility of the electron. The magnitude of the mobility of the electron is given by mu equal to E tau by m. This is equation 4. Let us now define mobility. It is defined as the magnitude of the drift velocity per unit electric field. We have studied that V drift equal to mu times electric field E. Therefore, mu must be equal to magnitude of V drift divided by magnitude of electric field. Therefore, mu equal to modulus of Vd divided by modulus of E. This is equation 5. Substituting meter per second as the unit for velocity and volt per meter as the unit of electric field, we now get the unit for mobility. The SI unit of mobility is meter square per volt per second. Let us now explain the microscopic model of a current. Consider a conductor with area of cross section capital A and an electric field E applied from right to left. Let small n be the number of free electrons per unit volume of the conductor. Let Vd represent the drift velocity of the electrons. Now you look at the picture given below. It is a cylindrical conductor of area of cross section capital A. An electric field capital E is applied across the conductor such that the right end is positive and the left end is negative. So, the negatively charged electrons drift towards the positive end of the conductor from left to right with the drift velocity Vd. Inside the entire conductor, let us now consider a small length dx through which the free electrons travel with a velocity Vd for a small time dt. Therefore, V drift must be equal to dx by dt, or the distance dx must be equal to Vd into dt. Also, the length of the small volume element is dx and area of cross section is capital A. Hence, the volume of the small element must be equal to A into dx. Let the electrons move through a distance dx within a small interval of dt with the velocity v drift. So, Vd is equal to dx by dt, or dx equal to Vd into dt. This is equation 1. Number of electrons in the volume element of length dx is equal to volume of the element into number of electrons per unit volume. That is equal to A dx into n. This is equation 2. Substituting 1 in equation 2. Therefore, number of electrons in the volume element of length dx is equal to A into Vd into dt multiplied by small n. This is equation 3. Now, charge of each electron is E, small e. Therefore, the total charge in this volume must be equal to dq equal to charge of one electron into the total volume. Therefore, dq equal to small e multiplied by A into Vd into dt into n. This is equation 4. So, this quantity of charge is flowing for a time dt. Hence, the current through the conductor is given by I equal to dq by dt. That is equal to small e into A Vd into dt into n divided by dt. Now, cancelling the factor dt on both sides, we get I equal to n A E into Vd. This is equation 5. Now, let us define current density vector, which is represented by capital J vector. The current density is defined as the current per unit area of cross section of the conductor. So, J is equal to I by A. The SI unit of current density is ampere per meter square. Since current I is equal to NA E into V drift, J is equal to I by A, that is equal to NAE into VD divided by A, cancelling capital A in the numerator and denominator, or J equal to NE into V drift. This is equation 6, which gives only the scalar or magnitude of the current density. Current density is a vector quantity. In vector form, J vector is equal to N E into VD vector. But already we know that VD vector is given by the expression minus EE by M into tau. Substituting VD is equal to minus capital E by M into tau. Therefore, J vector is equal to N E into minus EE by M into tau, or J vector is equal to minus N E square tau by M into capital E vector, or J vector is equal to minus of sigma into E vector. This is equation 7. We have substituted for sigma equal to N E square tau by M. Since the current density is along the direction of the electric field, we can also write J vector is equal to sigma times E vector, eliminating the negative sign. This is because both J vector and electric field E vector are in the same direction. So J vector is equal to sigma into E vector is equation 8, where N E square tau by M is equal to sigma is a constant, and that is called as conductivity of the material of the conductor. This is the reciprocal of the resistivity of the material rho. Equation 8, that is J vector is equal to sigma E vector, is called a microscopic form of Ohm's law. Now, in this equation, sigma is called the conductivity. The inverse of conductivity is called resistivity rho. Therefore, rho is equal to 1 by sigma. That is equal to M divided by N E square tau. This is equation 9. Now, once again, Ohm's law also can be derived in macroscopic form. Consider a segment of wire of length L and cross-sectional area A as shown below. If capital V is the potential difference across the wire and capital E is the electric field in the wire, then electric field E is equal to potential difference V divided by the length of the conductor. So E equal to V by L, equation 1, or V equal to E into L. Now J is also equal to current per unit area. Since J equal to I by A and J is also equal to sigma into E, that is equal to sigma into V by L. This is equation 3. Now we are going to equate the equations 2 and 3, that is J equal to I by A on the left hand side, that is equal to sigma into V by L on the right hand side. So equating 2 and 3, I by A is equal to sigma V by L, or taking V on the left hand side, V is equal to I into L by sigma A. So you must be knowing that in this equation, except the current I, the other factors in the bracket, namely the length of the conductor L, sigma, the conductivity of the material, and A, the area of cross section of the wire, all are constants. Therefore, the quantity L by sigma A is equal to capital R, and it is called the resistance of the conductor. So we can write this above equation as V equal to I into R. Hence, the macroscopic form of Ohm's law is given by V equal to I into R. This is equation 4. Let us now define resistance R of a conductor. Resistance of a conductor is defined as the ratio of the potential difference across the conductor to the current flowing through the conductor. That is R equal to V by I. The SI unit of resistance is ohm. Ohmic device. A device which obeys Ohm's law is called ohmic device. They are also called as linear devices. For such devices, the slope of the voltage versus current graph is a straight line. You can look at the graph on the top. Voltage V is taken along the x-axis. Current I is taken along the y-axis. If you plot the graph for different values of voltages and currents and join all the points, you get a straight line, and hence such a device is called linear device. Since it obeys Ohm's law, it is also called ohmic device. You choose any 2 points on this graph, that is the straight line, and take the ratio of the y-intercept by the x-intercept. That slope is equal to current divided by voltage. The reciprocal of the slope is equal to voltage by current, that is equal to the resistance. Now, example for ohmic devices. All metallic conductors are examples for ohmic devices. Non-ohmic device. A device which does not obey Ohm's law is called non-ohmic device. They are also called as non-linear devices. For such devices, the slope of the voltage versus current graph is not a straight line. Example, semiconductor diode, transistor and vacuum tube. You can look at the graph below. The voltage versus current graph is not a straight line, so it is called a non-linear device. It is a curved line. And the examples for this all semiconductor devices. Factors influencing the resistance of a conductor. 1. Resistance is directly proportional to the length L of the conductor. That is, R is proportional to L. Number 2. Resistance is inversely proportional to the area of cross-section A of the conductor. That is, R is proportional to 1 by A. Combining these two steps, we find that R is proportional to L by A. R. Capital R is equal to a constant rho into L by A, where rho is a constant of proportionality called specific resistance or resistivity of the material of the conductor. Its unit is ohm meter. Note, from the above equation, rho is also equal to R into A by L. In this equation, if L is equal to 1 meter and A is equal to 1 meter square, then rho will be equal to R. So from this we can get the definition for resistivity rho. Electrical resistivity of a material is defined as the resistance offered to current flow by a conductor of unit length having unit area of cross section. Combination of resistors. First, resistors in series. Consider 3 resistors of resistances R1, R2 and R3 connected in series. The current flowing through each resistor will be the same, but the potential difference across each resistor will be different. Look at the picture now. There are 3 resistors, namely R1, R2 and R3, across which the potential differences respectively are V1, V2 and V3. Now the net potential difference across the combination is equal to the sum of the potential difference across the individual resistors. That is V equal to V1 plus V2 plus V3. This is equation 1. Applying Ohm's law to each resistor, PD across R1 is V1 equal to I into R1. PD across R2 is V2 equal to I R2. PD across R3 is V3 equal to I R3. Substituting this in equation 1, we get V equal to I R1 plus I R2 plus I R3. This is equation 2. It is possible to replace the three resistors by a single resistor Rs such that the potential difference across it is V volt and the current through it is I ampere. The equivalent circuit for the above series combination of resistors is shown here. V is the applied potential difference, I is the current sent by the battery, and the combined effective resistance is Rs. Applying Ohm's law to this circuit, V equal to IRS. This is equation 3. Comparing equations 2 and 3, we get IRS equal to IR1 plus IR2 plus IR3. That is equal to I into R1 plus R2 plus R3, or cancelling the factors I on both sides, Rs equal to R1 plus R2 plus R3. This is equation 4. In the picture, we have assumed 3 resistors connected in series. So on the right hand side of equation 4, we get 3 terms. Suppose if n resistors are connected in series, then on the right hand side of equation 4, we will be getting n number of terms. If n resistors are connected in series, then Rs is equal to R1 plus R2 plus R3 up to the last term Rn. When several resistors are joined in series, the equivalent resistance of the combination is equal to the sum of the individual resistances. The equivalent resistance is greater than any of the individual resistances. Number 2, resistors in parallel. Consider 3 resistors of resistances R1, R2 and R3 connected in parallel. The current flowing through each resistor will be different, but the potential difference across each resistor will be the same. Look at the circuit. V is the applied potential difference and I is the current sent by the battery. This current is divided into 3 branches. The current I1 is passing through the resistor R1. I2 is the current passing through the resistor R2 and I3 is the current passing through the resistor R3. Here the 3 resistors R1, R2 and R3 are connected in parallel because all the top ends of the 3 resistors are joined together and connected to the potential difference positive terminal, and all the bottom terminals of the resistors are joined together and connected to the negative terminal of the battery. Now, the net current across the combination is equal to the sum of the currents flowing through the individual resistors. That is, I equal to I1 plus I2 plus I3. Applying Ohm's law to each resistor, I1 equal to V by R1, I2 equal to V by R2, I3 equal to V by R3. Substituting this in equation 1, we get I equal to V by R1 plus V by R2 plus V by R3. This is equation 2. It is possible to replace the three resistors by a single resistor Rp such that the potential difference across it is V volt and the current through it is I ampere. The equivalent circuit for the above combination of resistors in parallel is shown above. So I is the current sent by the battery, V is the potential difference across its terminals, and Rp is the effective resistance. So I is equal to V by Rp. This is equation 3. Comparing the equations 2 and 3, we get V by Rp is equal to V by R1 plus V by R2 plus V by R3, which is equal to V into 1 by R1 plus 1 by R2 plus 1 by R3. Cancelling V on both sides, we get 1 by Rp is equal to 1 by R1 plus 1 by R2 plus 1 by R3. This is equation 4. If n resistors are connected in parallel, then 1 by Rp will be equal to 1 by R1 plus 1 by R2 plus 1 by R3 up to the last term 1 by Rn. When several resistors are joined in parallel, the reciprocal of the equivalent resistance of the combination is equal to the sum of the reciprocals of the individual resistances. The equivalent resistance is less than any of the individual resistances. Now we are going to discuss one type of electrical resistor which is named as carbon resistor, and the value of the resistance offered by this resistor is given by some color codes. So the topic is color code for carbon resistors. Carbon resistors consist of a ceramic core on which a thin layer of crystalline carbon is deposited. These resistors are inexpensive, that is cheap, stable, and compact in size. Color rings are used to indicate the value of the resistance according to the rules given in the table given in the next slide. You can look at the diagram now. There are two end terminals for electrical connection, and at the center there is a carbon resistor which is provided with 4 rings. So you can see one first ring is green in color, the second one is blue in color, the third one is red in color, and the fourth one is golden color. So what does the color rings indicate? Let us see now. The resistance value is indicated by these colored rings. So in the picture, the first ring green is labeled as first digit, and blue ring is labeled as a second digit, and the third red ring is mentioned as a decimal multiplier, and the fourth ring is mentioned as tolerance. Okay. Now below the diagram you see the first 3 colored rings are used to indicate the values of a resistor. How many ohm? The first 2 rings are significant figures of the resistances. The third ring indicates the decimal multiplier after these 2, that is powers of 10. The fourth color, may be silver or gold color, shows the tolerance of the resistor at 10% or 5% respectively. If there is no fourth ring, then the tolerance of the resistor is 20%. So tolerance of the resistor means when the resistor is connected in the circuit, by how much the resistor can tolerate the variations of current in the resistor. So once again I recall that the first 2 rings specify the significant figures of the resistance. The third ring indicates the powers of 10. The fourth ring expresses the tolerance level of the resistor when it is connected in electrical circuits. This is the table conveying the numerical value for each color, then the decimal multiplier and the tolerance level for every color. The colors are written in a particular order, one below the other. Black, brown, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, gray and white, followed by gold, silver and no color. So the numerical value assigned to black is 0, brown 1, red 2, orange 3, yellow 4, green 5, blue 6, violet 7, gray 8 and white 9. Now the powers of 10, that is the decimal multiplier for black is 10 power 0, that is equal to 1. For brown it is 10 power 1, for red it is 10 power 2, for orange 10 power 3, for yellow 10 power 4, for green 10 power 5, blue 10 power 6, violet 10 power 7, gray 10 power 8, white 10 power 9, and for gold 10 power minus 1, for silver 10 power minus 2. The tolerance is given only for the last three columns, namely gold, silver and colorless ring. Respectively, 5% for gold, 10% for silver and 20% for colorless ring for tolerance level. And these colors must be written in a particular order that can be remembered by the mnemonic. B.B. Roy of Great Britain has a very good wife. B, first B stands for black, second B stands for brown. In Roy, R stands for red, O stands for orange, Y stands for yellow. In Great Britain, G stands for green, B stands for blue. In very good wife, V stands for violet, G stands for gray and W stands for white. Temperature dependence of resistivity. The resistivity of a material is dependent on temperature. It is experimentally found that for a wide range of temperature, the resistivity of a conductor increases with increase in temperature according to the expression rho T is equal to rho naught into 1 plus alpha into T minus T naught, where capital T is at a higher temperature and T naught is a lower temperature called reference temperature. Also, rho T represents resistivity at a temperature T and rho naught is the resistivity at a reference temperature T naught, which is less than T. Alpha is a constant which is called a temperature coefficient of resistivity. Now rearranging the above equation, it can be shown that alpha is equal to rho T minus rho naught divided by rho naught into T minus T naught. Once again, that is equal to rho T minus rho naught divided by T minus T naught whole divided by rho naught. Now you look at the numerator, that is rho T minus rho naught. So this is the increase in the resistivity divided by T minus T naught. So the entire numerator is now called as the increase in resistivity per degree rise in temperature, and the denominator is rho naught, which is the resistivity at the reference temperature T naught. Okay, now we have got the definition for the temperature coefficient of resistivity alpha. Temperature coefficient of resistivity alpha is defined as the ratio of increase in resistivity per degree rise in temperature to its resistivity at a temperature T naught. its SI unit is per Kelvin or Kelvin power minus 1. As the resistance is directly proportional to resistivity of the material, we can also write the resistance of a conductor at temperature T as RT equal to R naught into 1 plus alpha into T minus T naught. Previously we wrote the same equation, you remember, rho T is equal to rho naught into 1 plus alpha into T minus T naught. Now we are writing in terms of the resistance. So this equation clearly indicates that resistance and resistivity are directly proportional to each other. R alpha equal to RT minus R naught divided by R naught into T minus T naught. Rearranging this equation, we get again alpha equal to RT minus R naught divided by T minus T naught whole divided by R naught. Okay, now what is that term in the numerator? RT minus R naught is the increase in resistance divided by T minus T naught is a rise in temperature. So the entire numerator is the increase in resistance per unit rise in temperature. Denominator is R naught, that is the resistance at the reference temperature. Point number 2. For pure metallic conductors, the value of alpha is positive. That is, resistivity of the metal increases with increase in temperature. Point number 3. For alloys, alpha is positive and very low. They have a weak dependence on temperature. Point number 4. For insulators and semiconductors, alpha is negative. That is, the resistivity decreases with increase in temperature. Now from the following 3 graphs, respectively for metals, alloys and semiconductors, we can understand how the resistivity of the material varies with variation in temperature. Energy and power in electrical circuits. Now we can look at the circuit first. In the circuit diagram, we can see a cell whose potential difference is V volt, and above the positive terminal I have marked some points, namely B, C, D, A back to the cell. In the clockwise direction, if you move from the positive terminal, points B, C, D, then A, then to the negative terminal of the battery. Also you can see across the points C and D, an electrical resistor R is connected. Now I is the conventional current starting from the positive of the battery, which flows through the points B, C, D and back to A. Now normally a cell converts chemical energy into electrical energy. So when charges flow from the negative terminal of the battery to the positive terminal of the battery, it loses chemical potential energy and it gains electrical potential energy. Okay, now let us explain the topic. Assume that a positive charge of dq moves from the point A to B through the battery and moves from point C to D through the resistor R and back to the point A itself. When the charge dq moves from the point A to B, it gains potential energy given by the expression du is equal to V into dq. In the bracket, we have given the reason from the first chapter electrostatics. Potential difference V is equal to work done per unit charge, that is equal to dw by dq, or that is equal to du by dq. So you must know that the chemical energy is lost and electrical potential energy is gained by the charges. Next point. When this charge dq passes through the resistance R, it loses its potential energy given by the above equation du is equal to V into dq due to collision with the atoms in the resistor. And again, reaches the point A. Now you must understand that when the charges flowing through the circuit through the resistance R undergoes collisions with the atoms of the resistor, the electrical potential energy will be converted into heat energy. Okay, that means the electrical potential energy is lost by the charges. The electric power P is the rate at which the electrical potential energy is delivered. So P equal to du by dt. It is the rate at which the potential energy is given out or dissipated or lost. Therefore, P is equal to d by dt of V dq. V is constant. Therefore, P is equal to V into dq by dt. But dq by dt is equal to the rate of change of charges or the rate of flow of charges. Therefore, it must be equal to I, that is equal to the current. Therefore, we can write P is equal to V into I. So, power P is equal to voltage into current. Using Ohm's law, power delivered to the resistance R is expressed in other forms also. So in the first equation, P is equal to V into I am substituting V is equal to I into R. Therefore, P is equal to IR into I, that is equal to I square into R. In the next equation, P equal to V into I substitute I equal to V by R. Therefore, power P is equal to V square by R. The SI unit of electrical power is watt or joule per second. So we can write 1 watt also is equal to 1 joule per second. 1 watt. Power is said to be 1 watt when electrical energy is consumed at the rate of 1 joule per second. 1 kilowatt is equal to 1000 watt. 1 megawatt is equal to 10 power 6 watt. Horsepower was the earlier used unit of power. 1 horsepower is equal to 746 watt. Commercial unit of electrical energy. It is nothing but kilowatt hour. The commercial unit of electrical energy is kilowatt hour, kWh. 1 kilowatt hour is defined as the electrical energy consumed by an electrical appliance in 1 hour at the rate of 1000 joule per second. 1 kilowatt hour is also equal to 1 kilowatt into 1 hour, that is equal to 1000 watt into 3600 second. That is once again equal to 1000 joule per second into 3600 second. That is equal to 3.6 into 10 to the power of 6 joule. Therefore, 1 kilowatt hour is equal to 3.6 into 10 power 6 joule or watt second. So this is called the commercial unit of electrical energy because for calculating the electricity bill consumed by the consumers every month, this unit only is used. Therefore, it is called commercial unit of electrical energy and that is kilowatt hour. Let us now define some simple definitions in electrical terminology. The first one is electric cell. You can look at the diagram in which there is a beaker consisting of sulfuric acid and a carbon rod and a zinc rod, metal rods. They are inserted into the sulfuric acid. Now chemical reactions are going to take place between the zinc rod and sulfuric acid and the carbon rod also and the sulfuric acid. As a result, there will be some deposition of charges, namely negative charges on the zinc electrode, making it as cathode, and deposition of positive ions on the carbon rod, making it as a positive, namely anode. So a potential difference is produced, and hence this system acts like an electrochemical cell which converts chemical energy into electrical energy. Now we come to the definitions. Number 1, electric cell. An electric cell converts chemical energy into electrical energy to produce electricity. It contains two electrodes immersed in an electrolyte. When a cell is connected to a circuit, electrons flow from the negative terminal to the positive terminal through the circuit. By using chemical reactions, a battery produces potential difference across its terminals. This potential difference provides the energy to move the electrons through the circuit. Number 2, electromotive force, shortly EMF. The EMF of a battery or cell is the voltage provided by the battery when no current flows in the external circuit. Electromotive force determines the amount of work a battery or cell does to move a certain amount of charge around the circuit. It is denoted by the symbol epsilon, sometimes capital E. And I want to remind you that electromotive force is not a force. It is work done or energy required to drive q coulomb of charge from one end to the other end of a conductor. Definition 3 is internal resistance of a cell. The electric current in an external circuit always flows from the positive terminal to the negative terminal of the cell through different circuit elements. So this is called conventional current, we have learnt in the earlier classes. In order to maintain the continuity, the current has to flow through the electrolyte of the cell, that is from its negative terminal to positive terminal. During this process of flow of current inside the cell, a resistance is offered to the current flow by the electrolyte of the cell itself. This is termed as internal resistance of the cell. Now look at the circuit which is given above. You can see a cell consisting of sulfuric acid. The carbon electrode acts as the anode, positive, and the zinc electrode remains as a cathode, that is negative. If you connect these two terminals, then namely anode and the cathode, through a resistance or a bulb having a resistance, then it is a closed circuit. The conventional current flows from the carbon rod to the zinc rod in the external circuit. To complete the circuit, the current has to flow from the zinc rod to the carbon rod inside the sulfuric acid. So the sulfuric acid is the electrolyte. It is going to offer some resistance to the flow of current. This is called as internal resistance of the cell. As the cell is used for large number of hours or days or months, the electrolyte becomes very weak. As a result, the internal resistance decreases due to the aging of the cell. Determination of internal resistance of a cell using a voltmeter. You can look at the circuit given on the top. There is a cell of EMF epsilon, and small r is the internal resistance of the cell. We are going to measure the value of small r by using a voltmeter V. So the voltmeter is connected across the cell. Since voltmeter is an infinitely high resistance instrument, its connection across the cell does not consume any appreciable current. Now you come to the topic. A high resistance voltmeter across the cell without connecting the external resistance R is shown in the figure below. Since the voltmeter draws very little current for its deflection, the circuit may be considered as open. Hence, the voltmeter reading gives the EMF of the cell. Now coming to the second circuit. Then external resistance R is included in the circuit and current I is established in the circuit. The potential difference across capital R is equal to the potential difference across the cell V as shown in the figure below. So in the second picture given below, you can see that an external resistance capital R is included and the voltmeter is now connected across the resistor R. Now in this circuit, since an external resistance is connected, a current of I ampere will be drawn from the cell. When I ampere current flows through the resistance R, the product of I and R will be equal to V, that is the potential difference across the resistor R. So the total resistance in the circuit is capital R plus small r. Okay, now let us describe this in the next slide. With reference to the circuit given above, the potential drop across the external resistor capital R is V equal to I into R, or IR is equal to V. This is equation 1. Due to the internal resistance small r of the cell, now the voltmeter reads a value V which is less than the EMF of the cell. It is given by V equal to epsilon minus I small r. Rewriting this, I small r is equal to epsilon minus V. This is equation number 2. Now dividing equation 2 by equation 1. The left side is I small r divided by I capital R, that is equal to the right hand side is epsilon minus V divided by V. Cancelling the current term I on both sides, small r by capital R is equal to epsilon minus V divided by V, or small r is equal to epsilon minus V divided by V into capital R. This is equation 3. So in equation 3, since epsilon, capital V and capital R are known, the internal resistance small r can be determined. Now let us find out the power delivered by the battery. For a battery of EMF E with an internal resistance small r, the electric power delivered to the circuit of resistance capital R is given by P equal to I into E, that is equal to I into V plus I small r. Here V is the voltage drop across the resistance capital R and it is equal to I into R. Therefore, P is equal to I into IR plus I small r, or P equal to I square capital R plus I square small r. I square into small r is the power delivered to the internal resistance and I square capital R is the power delivered to the electrical device. Now we are going to discuss the combination of cells. First, cells in series. Suppose n cells each of EMF E volt and internal resistance small r ohms are connected in series with an external resistance capital R as shown below. Look at the circuit. In the circuit there are some cells of EMF E each connected in series. So when the negative of one cell is connected to the positive of the other cell in sequence, then they are said to be in series. Now the entire series combination of the cells is connected across a external resistance R. Okay, now the total EMF of the battery is N times E. The total resistance in the circuit is N times small r plus capital R. This is because each cell is having the same EMF E and hence the same internal resistance small r. So if you take the sum of all the internal resistances small r plus small r plus small r like that for n cells, the total internal resistance will be equal to n times small r. In addition to that, one external resistance capital R is also in the circuit. Hence the total resistance in the circuit must be equal to n times small r plus capital R. Okay. By Ohm's law, the current in the circuit is given by I equal to the total EMF divided by the total resistance. Therefore, I is equal to N times E divided by N times small r plus capital R. Case 1. When internal resistance small r is very much less comparing to the external resistance capital R, so that small r can be neglected in the above equation. Therefore, I is equal to N times E divided by capital R, that is equal to N times E by R, that is N times I1, where I1 is equal to E by R is the current due to a single cell. Thus, if R is negligible when compared to capital R, the current supplied by the battery is N times that supplied by a single cell. Case 2, when internal resistance small r is very large comparing to the external resistance capital R. So in this case, small r is greater and hence capital R can be neglected in the above equation. Therefore, I is now equal to N times capital E divided by N times small r. So N can be cancelled and I is equal to E by R. That is nearly equal to the current due to a single cell. Thus, current due to the whole battery is the same as that due to a single cell, and hence there is no advantage in connecting several cells. Note, thus series connection of cells is advantageous only when the effective internal resistance of the cells is negligibly small compared with the external resistance R. Cells in parallel. Look at the circuit diagram first. There are some number of cells connected in parallel to the external resistor R. The positive terminal of all the cells are joined together and connected to the point A of the resistor R. The negative terminals of all the cells are joined together and connected to the point B, the right side of the resistor R. E is the EMF of each cell. Small r is the internal resistance of each cell. Now come to the topic. Let n number of cells be connected in parallel between the points A and B, and a resistance capital R is connected between the points A and B as shown below. Let E volt be the EMF and small r ohm be the internal resistance of the cell. The equivalent internal resistance of the battery is given by 1 by R equivalent is equal to 1 by R plus 1 by R plus 1 by R up to n number of terms. So that will be equal to 1 by R equivalent is equal to n by R. Taking reciprocals, therefore R equivalent is equal to small r by n. Hence, the total resistance in the circuit is equal to capital R plus small r by n. The total EMF is equal to the potential difference across A and B. That is nothing but equal to the EMF E. By Ohm's law, the current in the circuit is given by I equal to total EMF by the total resistance. that is equal to E divided by R plus small r by N, or capital I is equal to N times E divided by small r plus N capital R. Let us now discuss some special cases applied to the above equation. Case 1. When small r is very much greater than capital R. Since capital R is negligibly small, it can be neglected in the above equation. Therefore, current I is equal to NE divided by small r, which is equal to N times I1, where I1 is equal to E by R is the current due to a single cell. Thus, the current through the external resistance due to the whole battery is N times the current due to a single cell. Case 2. When small r is very much smaller than capital R. Here, small r can be neglected. Hence, current I is equal to NE divided by N capital R. Cancelling the factor N on both sides, I is equal to E by capital R, which is also nearly equal to the current due to a single cell. Hence, it is advantageous to connect the cells in parallel when the external resistance is very small compared to the internal resistance of the cells. Okay students, this is the end of the PowerPoint 1. Thank you one and all.